Hello, my name is Rizka Diantamisti. I am going to do my project 1 from intermediate grammar subject. Compound complex sentence. A compound complex sentence is a type sentence structure that combines elements of both a compound sentence and a complex sentence. It must contain at least two independent clauses and less one independent or subordinate clause. It is formed by joining the clauses with both coordinated conjunctions like and, but, or, and subordinate conjunctions like because, although, while, if. For example, showing cause and effect. Because the weather was bad, we stayed inside and we played board games all afternoon. Function shows that the weather caused led to stay inside and playing games effect. Grammatical pattern, dependent clause because the weather was bad. Independent clause 1, we stay inside. Independent clause 2, we play board games all afternoon. Conjunction used because, subordinating, and coordinating. Example 2 showing contrast. Although he is usually quiet, he spoke up during the meeting, but nobody listened to his ideas. Function highlights a contrast between his usual quiet nature and his action of speaking up, and the contrast between his effort and the lack of attention he received. Grammatical pattern, dependent clause, although he is usually quiet. Dependent clause 1, he spoke up during the meeting. Independent clause 2, nobody listened to his ideas. Conjunction used, although subordinating and but coordinating. Example 3, showing time relationship. After the movie ended, we went to a restaurant and then we drove home. Function establish a sequence of events, movie ending first, then going to a restaurant, and finally driving home. Grammatical pattern, dependent clause after the movie ended. Independent clause 1, we went to a restaurant. Independent clause 2, then we drove home. Conjunction used after subordinating and coordinating. Example 4 showing condition. If you want to pass the class, you must study hard or you will fail the exam. Function and grammatical pattern. This sentence shows a condition. Studying hard is a condition for passing. Dependent clause. If you want to pass the class, subordinating conjunction if. Independent clause 1, you must study hard. Independent clause 2, you will fail the exam. Coordinating conjunction or. Why compound complex sentences are often used in academic writing? Because they allow for the expression of complex relations between multiple ideas. Academic writing requires precision and the ability to connect various pieces of information, evidence, and arguments logically. Compound complex sentences facilitate this by combining independent clause, main ideas, with dependent clause, providing context, condition, reason, or contrast. Illogical participial modifiers. An illogical participial modifier, often called a jangling modifier, is a grammatical error where a participial phrase does not clearly or illogically modify the intended subject of the sentence. This creates ambiguity or an unintended meaning because the modifier appears to describe a word other than the one the writer intended. From example 1, the original sentence illogically suggests that the mountains are looking out the window. The reverse sentence fixes this by adding the subject "we" to the main clause, making it clear that we are the ones of performing the action of looking. From example 2, in the original sentence, the participial phrase "having finished the assignment" illogically modifies the computer, implying that the computer finished the work. The revision clarifies the agent by adding the proper subject Sarah to the main clause. From example 3, the original sentence implies the verb itself did the action of being written in a hurry in an active sentence, which is illogical. The revised version uses a subordinate clause to provide the reason for the typos, correcting the illogical connection. From example 4, the original sentence suggests the cook was whipped before serving the cream. The revision uses a clause subject and passive voice in the initial clause to correctly indicate that the cream was the item being whipped. Recent linguistic or corpus-based data showing the frequency of participial errors made by English learners is because a lack of understanding of English grammatical rules. Error analysis studies often categorize these mistakes as morphological, syntactical, or semantic errors. The frequency of these errors can be high, as learners often struggle with the correct attachment and logical modification rules that are specific to English sentence structure, leading to ambiguity in their writing. From study case compound complex sentence, identify clauses. The dependent clause is because the teacher was late, and the independent clause are the student waited and they started the class by themselves. Explain sentence type. The sentence does not qualify as a true compound complex sentence. The second independent clause, they started the class by themselves, is not fully independent because the pronoun refers back to the students in the first independent clause. A true compound complex sentence requires at least two fully independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. From study case jangling construction, why the sentence is grammatically incorrect. The sentence is grammatically incorrect because the modifying participial phrase walking through the park does not logically or grammatically modify the subject of the main clause, the flowers, which results in a jangling modifier. The participial phrase is a descriptive element that implies an action being performed by a specific subject. In the given sentence, the grammatical subject of the main clause is the flowers. This structure implies that the flowers themselves are performing the action of walking through the park, which is illogical and nonsensical in standard English grammar. Identify which noun the participial phrase should logically modify. The noun that the participial phrase walking through the park should logically modify is an implied person or people who would reasonable to be performing the action of walking. The correct form from that sentence, walking through the park I saw the beautiful flower. This correction removes the dangling construction by ensuring that the subject of the main clause I is the same entirely that is performing the action in the participial phrase. Study case 3, compound sentence. Sentence A is truly a compound sentence. Sentence A, the manager approved the proposal but the director rejected. It's a compound sentence because it joins two independent clauses. The manager approved the proposal and the director rejected with a coordinating conjunction, but both clauses can stand alone as complete sentence. Sentence B, the manager approved the proposal because the director was busy. It's a complex sentence. It contains one independent clause, the manager approved the proposal, and the independent clause, because the director was busy, introduced by the subordinating conjunction because the dependent clause cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. The grammatical difference between compound complex sentence and compound sentence. Compound sentence join two or more independent clauses, while complex sentence join one independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. Compound sentence consists of two or more independent clauses, complete thoughts, joined by a coordinating conjunctions such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so each clause has equal grammatical weight. Complex sentence consists of one independent clause and at least one independent subordinate clause. The dependent clause relies on the independent clause for its full meaning and is introduced by subordinating conjunctions such as because, although, while, if, and until. Here are four examples of compound sentences using different conjunctions. And the sun was shining brightly and the birds were singing happily. But she wanted to go to the party, but she had to finish her homework first. So it was getting late, so they decided to head home. Yet he had very little money, yet he always seemed content.